All right, we are here. So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversation. My name is Einav Avni, Untangled Coaching, and with me I have Martin Gillespie. I will get that name wrong. Sorry. Martin, hello, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and for your listeners, it's so terrific that for them to hear a Scottish accent. But I'm actually based in Sydney, Australia, so I'm at the end of my day. You're at the beginning of your day. It is brilliant to be connected with you.
Really lovely to have you here. And I'm actually really excited about the topic of conversation. We actually don't often specify, I guess, in the conversation I've been having with people so far, haven't really specified men health as such. So I'm really excited for what you're about to share with us.
Look, it's men's well-being is a really untapped market, and one of the key things is to break down some of the dogma and stigma around men looking after themselves. And essentially, we are very simple human beings, both male and female. We're very, very simple. But a lot of the societal judgment about men actually gets planted into our brains from a very young age. And we take our time to reach out for help, but more importantly, to receive help, to grow. And that's one of the key critical aspects about being well.
Mm.
You've got to be able to acknowledge and actually work with other people as well as working within.
Yeah. And I definitely, that definitely resonate with me. That's definitely my experience about maybe more so with men about, as you said, the stigma and what will people think and what will people say, and can I actually make that step to go and ask for help? And I guess it's a huge step for them, for men to actually get that going. So I'm really curious about how did you start, and what has been your journey like?
So my journey really, there's quite a few life changing events, if you want to call it that. And you and I have spoken about this before, but one of the key things is actually acknowledging what your purpose is and what you are supposed to be doing. And if
Mm.
I look at where, as I said, I'm Scottish and I grew up in Scotland, and then I moved to Australia in the year 2000. So I jokingly tell people, because in the year 2000, Sydney hosted the Olympics. And I actually tell people that I actually was part of the Scottish Olympic team and overstayed my welcome for 20 years, but that's not really the truth. But I was working very much in the corporate. I was programmed to go to school, get an education, go to university, get a job. And it was in my late 30s that I sort of started having these various thoughts, if that makes sense. I started coaching people on the side and sort of working with people sort of motivationally and encouraging people, etc. And also realized that I could hold that space. And I was running in the corporate environment. I was running very much in a sales directorship, running a lot of accounts and being very responsible, especially in the area of cybersecurity. So it's an emotional and it's very topical subject. However, I could always feel that I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't fulfilled in my soul and in my purpose. Financially, I had all the rewards you could think of: nice house, married, nice cars, the lifestyle that you think is important, but it's materialistic. And then when I was in my early 40s, um, I was actually diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Now, if those who are unaware, there are stages and so many different variations of cancer. I had a blood cancer, and stage 4 is a very, very critical staging.
Mm.
Stage 4, there is no stage 5 in this planet. You're dead. So I didn't realize at the time how ill I actually was. And that triggered so many changes in my health, my well-being. And I had to go down a pathway of actually getting a lot of help, psychological help, counseling. And that opened a lot of doors for me actually to start retraining my brain and retraining what I believed and what I thought was important. It also led me down a pathway of going back to one of the first principles of medicine, and that is food is medicine. Let medicine be thy food. Because I was being injected with hundreds of thousands of pounds, dollars, euros, francs, whatever you want to call it, of drugs. Now, I needed to get them, and I will always advocate that there is a need for Western medicine as well as Eastern medicine. You've got to have a balance. So I was getting the balance of the drugs, but I was also getting a lot of emotional help. And over a short period of a couple of years, I actually went to see about a dozen psychologists, and each of them helped in certain ways. But of that dozen, only one of them spoke about what I was actually eating and the impact that was having on my mental health. Because my anxiety levels were through the roof. My marriage had collapsed at that time as well. And I also had a couple of, I've got a couple of daughters who were really young at that time. So the mask of masculinity I was having, I was a father, I was ambitious in the corporate world, I had a very high paying job and responsibilities that went with that, but I was also critically ill. So the balance was out of sync. So over a couple of years, I actually started retraining. And my background 20 years ago, I studied nutrition, but I had to retrain, if that makes sense, to sort of tap into alternative thinking and also go back to first principles. So I studied nutritional environmental medicine. And that gave me the gateway to actually go, wait a minute, how can I take some of this learning and adapt that to one-on-one coaching, and especially coaching of men, but also in the corporate environment, looking at how corporate culture, which is a reflection of a human being, many organizations will talk about and evangelize about their culture, but if their culture's toxic, they're not looking after the most important asset, and that's the staff. With men, having gone through a divorce myself and a lot of my peers, there's a lack of empathetic support from men. And I'll be really honest, I jokingly say being Scottish, etc., but having that mindset that when things got really hard, it's very easy to go and grab a bottle of wine, and a bottle of wine becomes 2 bottles of wine, and 2 bottles of wine become a daily habit. Now, alcohol does have a place in society, don't get me wrong, but when it becomes a band-aid, then you know that there is something wrong. And I would deny myself, and I would try and be healthy and go for a walk at night time with enough money in my pocket so that I could buy 2 bottles of wine at the nearest bottle shop to my home. So I was in that denial and that space, if that makes sense. So I can resonate. I am a man. I've gone through an awful lot of things like trauma, cancer, divorce, all of those. So when I work with men, I've gone through a lot of things. So I'm not analyzing and it's not about trying to fix people, because I believe that people aren't broken. They sometimes need a little bit of guidance and pushing and direction and coaching. Well, with men, we will play soccer or football or whatever you want to call it. There'll be a coach there, and we'll accept that, and we'll go to training, once a week, twice a week, whatever. But in our personal life, we're very, dare I say it, very embarrassed to get some help, because it affects our ego and that mask of masculinity, as I mentioned. And also, we do bring a thing of shame and what we call shadows, because we don't feel that we need emotional support, but that's what we're craving for.
There's so many things that you're saying, and they're all really, obviously they resonate with me with what I've seen as well. And you are specifically looking at men, and there is something you've mentioned, the conditioning, right? It's what we believe is even unconsciously believe that this is the expectations of us, and that we are unable to break free of that. Actually, a lot of the time we don't even ask ourselves that question, is what I'm going through, is it something that I've decided that is right for me, or am I carrying it over from, parental or society, from society or culture or whatever? So here we are finding ourselves in that place where we're suffering and we don't even know why, or sometimes, because I think that was my case, that I recognized that whatever was before wasn't helpful, but I didn't dare to go against what I recognized was, like, everything that I knew. So I definitely, I'm hearing this. And then what you were saying also about the, now we may be looking more into men psyche, I guess, and that is that the shame and the idea of really, can I really ask for that help? Can I really admit that there is something wrong? And what does it mean about me? Am I maybe no longer that man anymore? Right? There is all these questions.
I think that. I mean, one of the things I remember working with some men, and we were talking about a really strong emotion, which I find anyway, and it's that word intimacy. And
Mm,
every man I speak with always goes externally around if they're in a relationship, but not many men will take a look in the mirror when they're washing their face in the morning, brushing their teeth, if they're shaving, and actually take a moment to admire that person they see in the mirror.
mm,
So we only see what we can see through our own eyes, and we can only hear auditory what we can only hear. The other key bit, which I think is critically important, and I know some of the work that you're doing as well, is taking a moment to actually give yourself, it doesn't matter what sex you are, but give yourself a pat in the back now and again for
mm,
doing a damn good job, even if it's a small win. And I'll share something. I was over the last couple of weeks, I've got a couple of things happening, and on one side of the fence, I'm doing really well somewhere, and then I got these negative thoughts in my head. And the thing that triggered me in a positive way, I went, gee, I'm so glad I vacuumed my place today. All my rooms look nice and tidy. Simple little thing, but it
mm,
meant so much to me. So it changed my mind from giving attention and energy to a negative thought. I'm walking around my house going, God, that's nice and tidy. How did that make me feel? Fantastic. So
mm,
when we're working with men and we actually get them to recognize it's not about always trying to fix something, because men are built that way that they want to always fix it.
mm. Yeah.
The beautiful thing about being vulnerable, and I love the word vulnerability, but I also would counter that with change your language from vulnerability to fearlessness.
Mm-hmm.
So you're giving that attention to fear, and fear can actually be quite good because you're going into the unknown.
Yeah.
But when you're fearless, you don't care. And when you don't care, nothing can get in your way.
I like that. I like everything that you said. It resonates also, as you say. Vulnerability does sound a little bit. I'm broken and I'm sharing this, but actually, fearlessness, as you say, is the. It's not that. It's really recognizing that whoever I am, I am. I am, as you say, not broken, and everything I have or everything I need is already within me. So now, basically, what we're saying is actually how to create that journey that we allow ourselves to say, actually, there is something that is on my mind, something that I don't know how to deal with, or something that is new or emotional for me. Now, how do I merge that into something, yeah, not merge, but how do I build on that? What do I do with this so that I don't have to change who I am? I can just move forward in a direction or in a way that is just a continuation of me.
And it's funny you say that, because one of the things that we've been doing, we've been working with a small group of men, and a simple thing that to change conversations is a great way of actually allowing people that starting point, because once men in particular get started, they will go, they will wind up like one of those little wind up toys that you and I remember from our childhood.
Mm,
One of the conversations, we're working with a group, and we actually got them to pay attention to the amount of sleep that they were getting.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to check in with us all every couple of days and talk about the amount of sleep. And we held them accountable if they were getting a low amount of sleep. Because without sleep, you're not allowing your body to rest properly. So we held that group accountable to changing their mindset around the value of what sleep does for your well-being. And they started talking to their mates about it. They were talking to their wife and their kids going, we need to get sleep. Very, very simple thing. But you know what? It doesn't cost you anything to sleep. And it is one of the most important parts of being well.
So how does this conversation actually start? So I understand you're working with groups of men and also maybe doing the one-on-one, but there is something before that like how do people know to say, okay, I'm recognizing that I'm going through something, and then actually coming to find you?
So
What
quite a few things. Over the last 2-3 years, been very, very active in using platforms, social media. I was going to say advertising, but I don't mean advertising as such. We've been writing journals, blogs, but most importantly, one of the key things about connecting with people is also that sense of community. And I've gone around my local community, and actually 18 months ago, I started a men's group. And over that period of time, I actually had 35 men come, and it was about just engaging with each other. And what we would do in the process is I would bring a topic each week and then just let it flow for about 40 minutes. And then I would put the men into breathing exercises because, again, I mentioned about language. If I'd said to them, guys, I want you to meditate, that's not going to happen. That's too much. You've gone from, you rightly said, how do we get them through that first phase of actually engaging to go from here to there? It's not going to work. It's too much. So slowly got them there. And then I worked out that that's what the men were coming back for. So I extended the meditation time by reading poetry when the men were breathing, deep breathing. So I got another 5 minutes out of it. And poetry, the beauty of poetry and language means that it resonates with that dormant part of your subconscious brain to go, I remember at school, I remember this poem or that prose, or you've just triggered me to read a book about something. Isn't that fantastic? So you actually bring positive engagement back to that human being.
Yeah. And I can definitely recognize that, once you are in that setup, right, in that group, or in the conversation, it's it's probably quite as you said, that the wind up toys, it's people come up with stuff, right? They no longer hold themselves. That's definitely my experience with the men that I've been working with. That maybe there is an initial kind of hesitation, but once you open that gate, the gate, everything comes out, because people recognize that they're allowed to speak, and actually it's valid. Everything that they're going through is valid and allowed and normal, and actually kudos for coming and sharing and opening up. I the one thing that I'm still a little bit in my mind is like a question is, if I'm thinking about men that I know that are not my clients, if I would say to someone, would you consider, going to speak about your emotions or whatever is challenging you, I already kind of know that I will face some resistance. So how can the
So,
women in men's life help?
again, so one of the things that, again, a learning that I had with this, when you ask someone else, so say it was a partner or a wife or partner, and you should go and see it. Well, you've already set a judgment there, and that man has got to be able to do it on his own accord.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I've managed to tap into, and it's really great that you brought this up. Sometimes it's about the engagement, But a lot of the time also is this the power of silence of getting men together, because psychologically they feel connected. And the alienation of men, if that makes sense, and the alienation of just talking from the heart is something that has got stronger, if that makes sense, over the last couple of years. But to be able just to talk, not the BS, not the what latest car you're driving or whatever, that's got some importance. But as I mentioned, if you start talking about sleep, or you start saying, oh, I had this little lump, or I'm feeling, and as soon as you hear the word feeling, you know you're talking about an emotion. And one of the things that breaks the ice, so to speak, is we actually one of the key areas that I focus predominantly a lot on is about what you're consuming food wise. So when I talk to people and say, what are you eating? How do you feel when you eat that? And then you get a bit deeper and you go, why do you eat that? What's your relationship? How does it make you feel? So it's almost like you're chipping away at that person for them to open up, but you're doing it in a very softer manner. If you go to a psychologist, and I mentioned I've been to many. In fact, I'm coaching 2 psychiatrists just now who have been on antidepressants for over 10 years. And you think, you're a psychiatrist, you know what this stuff can do for you. Why are you doing it? It's not about the drug. It's about their relationship, their codependency on that drug. So we know that drug is, if we changed it to a Smartie, they would take the Smartie. And the placebo effect would be, I'm taking a drug. We've got to break that relationship. And when you think about it, you've been on this planet for more than 30 years. You've had that over 30 years of programming. So it takes a little bit of time before you will actually see those changes. And from the work that I'm doing, it takes between over 6 months to really see those changes. But people are programmed to have that quick fix, that quick band-aid. Yes, there are solutions on that, don't get me wrong, but they will not be sustained.
Yeah. So I want to touch a little bit more about the food and nutrition that you've mentioned, but I just want to ask before, because of course we know, right? There is the stigma, I guess, of men is that they don't want to talk about feelings and emotions, and that they would want to present a different kind of facade, really, how they're being perceived. Is that true to all men? Is that, what is your experience with that?
No, it's funny actually, and one of the aspects that I use is the fact, again, I use the nationality of being Scottish, is that as a proud Scotsman, we wear on our clothing, the national dress of Scotland is a kilt. Essentially, it's a skirt. So I kind of break down the ice and go, we guys wear skirts, but we call them kilts. But we wear them from such a young age. So we kind of break that humorous aspect. And once you break through a kind of humor, you actually get the guard breaking down. And humor, if used in the right context, and especially in that environment where men can actually, I'm not saying that we're crude or anything like that, but just allowing it to flow, people relax, because humor and laughter are a real energy. And humor and laughter can also reflect a sadness, but it's getting that balance. So if they're bringing out some funny, quick wits and very funny comments, you kind of notice that, but you also notice that, well, wait a minute, let's go into the darker side of that, because it's always got to have a balance. And that's where you can actually break in quite quickly and focus. And I'll give you an example. When we're doing, especially in group work, when we're doing working, we might go in with a preconceived idea of what that session is going to be. As soon as someone opens a conversation, we'll let that flow. And it's about the engagement. So I like what you're questioning. With men in particular, once they open up, don't shut them off, would be my piece of guidance as well. And that goes within, if you're in a relationship with a man, if once they start opening up, and it could be 6 o'clock, it doesn't have to be 6 o'clock at night, 6 in the morning. Once they start flowing, let them flow and encourage it is really important. And actually praise them. Don't when you criticize someone, you're going negative energy. When you praise someone, you're actually going to get a more positive response, but you're actually going to get a more authentic response. And I think that's something that we don't do enough of when we're actually working with people, if that makes sense. It's not about saying everything is fantastic, but it's allowing them to actually feel that confidence and that self-confidence and that self-image confidence to actually start talking about, oh, I felt this way. Oh, I don't know what's happening. And if it's doubt, then that's great. Bring these emotions to the top table, not to under the table. And that's where it will flow.
And what about men that you're already working with, and obviously they learn to express themselves more, and also they learn to recognize that actually maybe not every space is toxic. Like if they come from a toxic relationship, or they learn that they can actually share and open up and get in touch with their feelings and emotions. So what is the advice for these men when they come back to the environment? How are they carrying it over? What should
Well,
they?
one of the key tools that I work and my business partner Natalie will work closely with is actually tapping into that emotion of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you tap into empathy, you will actually feel your whole body growing, and it will grow in a self-image. Your communication is better. I'll give you an example. We're working with two entrepreneurs, and we've been working with them for a little while. And one of the feedback, a part of feedback one of them has given us is, my God, my company is growing exponentially because my staff are actually enjoying working for me now because they can see the changes. Because one of the things that's very, very difficult, sometimes you cannot see the changes that are happening in yourself because you're too entrenched in them. But your energy will actually permeate those changes. And when people are seeing those results, keep going. A simple little thing that we promote, if that makes sense, is getting out into sunshine, getting out into fresh air, and actually promoting being morning people. But not everyone's a morning person. But if you're able to get up in the morning, stretch, meditate, and even go for a walk as you guys are moving into summertime, you're getting that vitamin D into your body. Vitamin D synthesizes all your organs internally and makes them work better. And it also has that feel-good factor. So instead of grabbing your first cup of coffee at 5:30 in the morning, just spend half an hour on a little bit of self-care. It's not much. And breathing is one of the most important things, to be able to breathe from your diaphragm, not from your chest, not from your belly. Breathing is good, but it's got to come from your diaphragm. If you're breathing from your diaphragm, you're actually protecting all your inner organs.
So I like what I'm getting from you, that it's really a whole process of getting in touch with emotions and feelings, and then also bringing all these other aspects like breathing, the nutrition, the sleep, and really showing you that it's you know it's not just about talking about your feelings. It's actually investing in yourself, in your whole well-being.
Oh, look, without doubt, and another little thing that we do with people at the moment, and it's quite fun. I do it with not just with my coaching clients, but I actually do it with my communities. Well, if I go to my local coffee shop and I'm chatting to some people there, I encourage people. One of the most amazing things you can do, and it's also about reconnecting with yourself and reconnecting with your family environment.
Mm-hmm.
Getting a blank sheet of paper. So say there's 3 people in your house or 4 people in your house, your wife, your partner, and 2 kids, say for argument. You write their name on top and you choose a day of that week that everybody has to have a cold shower in the morning. One, you're going to save money with heating, right? I can see your face going, no, 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 no. However, what the most amazing thing about that is, it connects everybody in that house. That's one thing that they're going to do every day. And over a couple of weeks, they'll write down how they feel about it. So the feeling will go from, I'm not going to do this. And if you've got teenagers in the house, they're going to go, I was in for 10 minutes. No, you weren't. You were in for 3 and then you jumped out, right? So there is this kind of camaraderie you have, but you're creating fun, right?
Mm.
And it's a simple little thing you can do. And you go to bed the night before dreading it, going, God, what did I do this for? However, it connects everybody together. You have a bit of fun.
Mm.
And more importantly, 1 day a week will soon become 2 days a week. And you actually start building, you also start building a stronger relationship with the people that you're sharing in that house over a very simple thing. And also it's very personal. You'll go to the shower on your own. So the rest of the household can hear that the water's running and not running, right? So you can't lie. But it's also having a little bit of fun about being well. And when I'm sitting in the coffee shop and I'll tell people about this, they look at me and go, you're off your head. And I'll go, when I bump into them a few days later, I'll go, have you tried it? And it'll take a couple of times for people to get onto it. But it is a really simple tool. And it is a bit of fun as well. And so you're making health fun, but you're also, more importantly, you're connecting yourself. And if you have a cold shower, one of the byproducts, which is great, it's actually so good for your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, once you start getting into it, people are going to go, I'm going to do 2 of them, or I'm going to do them on the weekend, right? So you've got that judgment that that's your downtime, and you're actually putting something really good back into your body.
But I really like that, because it's like, and especially, of course, as you say, there's on the health benefits, and it's bonding with the people in the household on a different level. But I think it's also another thing, another benefit is that it's also helping people to get rid of labels, because you're no longer the mom, the dad, the kids. You actually, you're reconnecting on a completely different level, which you're all equal, because you all, have this something to do together, separately but together.
Without that, look, if your kids are 5 and 6, say for argument's sake, they might not want to do it. But if there are other people doing it, you kind of go, come on, you've got to do it. And they want to be involved. And it's that I mentioned about alienation, but you've got that community of family. You've got community of the people you're in the house. You can also try it with your neighbors. And what I mentioned about my mates checking in about sleep, if you check in with your friends, did you have a cold shower today? You didn't? Why didn't you have one? And again, one of the simple things is I mentioned earlier about bringing humor. You're bringing something that it's not impossible to have a cold shower. But you're also opening that conversation. Why didn't you have one? Oh, I didn't feel well. Oh, are you okay? So you can actually break down a lot of that emotional BS, if you want to call it that. And actually people will open up. Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't feel well. And you can, that can go anywhere. No, oh, I felt like this I'm feeling down or depressed, or I've got a lump here, or, I'm scared to, well, again, you can take that conversation and you're actually helping people.
So it's a starting point to help people to open up.
Yeah, and it's a really simple one. I mean, another little tool, again, using this blank sheet of paper kind of methodology that you pin it onto the board, and you put everybody's name. And every time you go to the fridge, you use the fridge because essentially it's the most used piece of equipment in a kitchen. It's the central point of a kitchen. So you write your names up there. And every time you go into the fridge, you write a positive affirmation about yourself. Right? And again, with the people you share the house with, they can put up and go, you're not like that. So again, you're bringing conversations of fun, You're
Yeah.
bringing conversations of what people think of themselves, not about, oh, mum hates me or dad's an idiot kind of stuff. You're
Yeah.
actually putting there about your feelings. And again, from a man's point of view, they're actually getting engaged with talking about their feelings and
Mm.
allowing the support of the loved ones to help them. So there are really simple tools that you can use. And again, if they're fun, they're cost effective, you can use them anytime, anywhere. You know, you go on holiday for a week and you write down all the things that you've experienced. So it's like journaling in some ways, but it's a shorter version to start a conversation.
I really like that. I definitely really like that. It would be the snack drawers in my house, I guess, but
Snack drawers, or um, you find something that you can all relate to, which is fantastic, and I think that that's really important.
yeah, I totally agree, and I really like all of these little tools and suggestions that you're bringing, because it definitely resonates, and resonates with me, and I'm sure it resonates with the people who are listening or will be listening. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about the nutrition a little bit more, but I also want to ask something that you've mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, which was about the purpose, and saying that actually, of course you were in corporate, but you knew that it wasn't meeting your soul's purpose. What can you tell us about that? How to identify? I mean, a lot of people obviously recognize that they're feeling miserable or unhappy at work or in life. How can they move forward to towards finding that purpose and know what to do, how to do?
So I actually got some help just to help me refigure my brain. And now it wasn't just that one person that helped me. You've got to
Mhm.
remember, as I mentioned, I've seen about a dozen psychologists. So it's a little piece of everything, but it's also a piece about my environment, my upbringing, and all that kind of stuff. So all added up. But I also recognized in myself that I needed to do something. And you cannot tell someone, oh, on the 1st of May, I want you to resign and follow your passion. You've got to trust yourself. And that's where the big challenge, I have to say, is around self-image. Self-image is also about trust.
Mm,
If you don't trust yourself, you will bring doubt.
yeah.
You have to change your mindset. I mentioned, I was on that trajectory, corporate trajectory. So you're earning what you think is tremendous money, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
But what does it get you? Right? So you've got to really retrain your brain. If you're willing to put in those hard yards, the most powerful thing you can be is, one, fearless, and two, healthy. When you're healthy, both mentally and your gut and your energy around you, you emanate this energy that you also, one of the things that where people will go, can't do that. You also have to learn how to let go of things that no longer serve you. And of that, it also is some friendships that you think are important. You have to let go to allow space for new opportunities to come in. And I
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the things I know personally I struggled a little bit with. And a lot of people do, because they're used to that familiarity. When you're going into the unknown, just go with it. It's like crossing the road for the first time. You don't know what's on the other side, but you just go. So you keep it really simple. But
Hmm.
there are people that have been a chapter of your life that you will always love and respect them for being in that space at that time. But you have to let them go. And they have to let you go as well.
Yeah. I like that. It's really, it's just helping us to see that we can set an intention to say, I'm not happy where I am now. I can start looking at all these different things, like who is in my life, what am I doing, is that thing actually calling me, is am I doing it because it's my thing, or is that part of the conditioning like we mentioned before? And then you can just start taking smaller steps. It doesn't have to be huge steps, but it's just things to help you recognize that, I'm doing it because it's mine and I want it. So as you say, if there's people that on your way that are toxic or toxic or unhelpful, it's okay to just say, look, this path has finished, and thank you for what you brought into this, as you said, with the chapter. So I think it's very helpful to remind people that it's not black and white. It's not I'm unhappy to I found my purpose. It's actually that journey of discovery and letting or allowing things to go, to change, and finding new things as you are progressing.
I think that
um,
I totally agree with you. And one little tool that we use regularly with probably the 90% of our clients
mm,
is getting them to sit in silence for 3 minutes. No phones, nobody in your ear. Close your eyes and just sit in silence. When 3 minutes becomes 5 minutes and they sit with their own feelings, that is the most powerful thing. So instead of, looking out there going, do I have a side hustle while I've got a job, while I've got this, while I've got that? Your side hustle should be looking internally, because all your answers are in here. And the best
I
way to
like
do that is spending the time getting to know yourself.
that. I like that, and great advice as well. So just to get into the end of the conversation, I know maybe we can speak a little bit about the nutrition part of stuff, and also if you want to tell us anything that you are promoting at the moment, or how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. So the nutritional aspect, one really simple ask I have for you, for all your listeners: stop eating processed foods.
Mm,
Start looking at what you're consuming into your body, and also start looking at the labels that are on products that you will put on your skin. Very simple. Eat real food. Stop eating food like products. That will clear the pathway between your gut and your brain. That's really important. The big bit that we're delighted at, we have the organization that I'm the co-founder of is called Tackling the Silence. So it's tacklingthesilence.com. And what we are really promoting is we're promoting a safe space for people to come and talk about their journey on mental health and nutrition.
mm,
And we've got an in-person event, and it will be broadcast online as well, available virtually, in 2 weeks' time here in Sydney, where I will talk about, and I can't recall if we mentioned this, but I know that we've spoken before, having had a chronic illness and about the pathway of change, that nutrition was my first port of call, using food as medicine. My brains behind my business, Natalie West, who's a clinical psychotherapist, will talk about the unconscious mindset. And our third speaker that we have for their event is the Australian of the Year, talking about the impact that sugar has on our lifestyle, because sugar
mm.
is, in the English language, used in 80 different words and used in over 80% of products available in supermarkets. And that is causing an impact on our mental well-being.
Yeah, sugar. I'm fighting the sugar for sure. And so in the work that you are doing with people, do you? I mean, are you helping them to also get rid of the processed food and stuff, or is it really
Yeah.
just a recommendation?
So we're getting rid of them, processed foods. In the last year, to give you a bit of a background into some of the people we've been working with, in the last year, we've prevented 7 men from committing suicide. We've been dealing with people who have been molested, rape victims, molestation. We've been dealing with people from cancer backgrounds. We've been dealing with CEOs. So we get a whole range of people. We've taken many people off medication through the power of food. Now, I'm not a doctor. I do have certain limitations, but we do work with the medical profession to help us engage with our clients. So we also we take it further. And one of the things that we ask our clients when we do individual work, we get them to do blood tests and blood analysis to see what's happening in their bodies. Because once we know what's happening in their bodies, we have a part of the jigsaw puzzle to have customized coaching for that individual.
Sounds very powerful.
So we're really lucky that we've got a group of people around us. So we'll be looking at copper content, mineral content. And one of the hardest things we ask people, and it's very uncomfortable, we will ask people not only to write down for the last 3 days what they have consumed, but how they feel about what they're eating. And that we are finding is the hardest part, that people will be honest with themselves. But they'll be able to tell you about how much rent they pay or what mortgage they have or all these materialistic things. We're asking about what you're fueling your most important body with for the last 3 days. And when we find out what they're eating, my goodness, by midday, most of them have had 2 mugfuls of sugar, and they're wondering why their brain is not functioning, why they're not sleeping. I mean, I'll give you an example. Serotonin, which is helpful for your sleep, 90% of your body serotonin is produced in the gut, not in the brain. So that gut-brain axis is so, so important. And when we start working with people and explaining this to them, they go, oh. And I'll give you an example. I mean, the last time I think we spoke online, I had no hair. Now I don't take any sugar, and I'm what you call a carnivore. I only eat meat products, fats, and some cheese and eggs. And in meat, there is a mineral called sulfur, sulfur. And part of the byproduct is that it protects your nails and your hair follicles. And all my hair has grown back in because I am not putting any inflammation markers into my gut. So, if you want to get good hair, eat meat. And again, a simple little thing, we talk about people's environments, reducing the chemicals in people's houses will help their well-being. And the biggest one that we start sharing with people is what you wash your clothing with. If you're putting chemicals into your clothing, when you're asleep, your body is relaxing and your pores are opening up, but they're getting covered in chemicals. Those chemicals go into your skin, they go into your blood. And that's how it can actually have an impact on chronic illness. So when we start teaching people these kind of methods, that plus some of the unconscious thinking, it all starts to change. And they become healthier, their energy levels improve, but they also start having this ripple effect of telling their mates about it. And that's how we also, from a business point of view, will get referral work.
Sounds amazing. Martin, we have to finish here, but it's been a real delight to speak with you and to learn about everything that you do, for the people that walk with you, and also, the effect on the world. It's really fascinating. In a minute or after this conversation, I will share with the people the links, so socials and the calendar and stuff, and maybe, I don't know if the link to the event that you have, if we have people in Sydney and they might want to join, then let's put it there as well. So thank you very much for this wonderful conversation. And any last words before I'll finish the broadcast?
Look, it's been an absolute pleasure. I value your time and spending it with me today, and it's been absolutely brilliant. I loved it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.